Hi everyone and welcome back to our second project. In the last video, we created our first file, which is going to be a beautiful soup file. And now, as I said in the previous video, beautiful soup is used mainly for HTML. So what the beautiful soup is doing in our project is it is filtering out all the unneeded data and is only giving us what is there in paragraphs. So now we're going to do the next file, which is going to contain the Streamlit UI and also the main code. So let's go and create a new file. And I'm going to name this file as main.py. So basically, just like in the previous project, we're going to import Streamlit as st. Then we're going to import OS to get our OpenAI API key. Then we're going to import .env to load the .env. We're going to say from .env import load.env. So this is going to help us to get our OpenAI API key from our env file, which is over here. And as I said, I suggest using your own API key as this API key, which is displayed on my screen here, will not work. And I also suggest that you don't share your API key with anyone else as they could be using it and this will end up with you losing your quota. So let's continue. So after this, I'm going to say from OpenAI, import OpenAI. So this is going to be the command that we're going to use to generate an answer. And I'm going to say from article analyzer, import fetch article text. So in the old file, we made a function called article text, which is basically going to get us our data from the URL. So this is the function, and we are only going to import this function that we made for the main part, as we only needed to get the data from the URL. So next I'm going to load the .env, and now I'm going to say client equals OpenAI API key equals os dot get env OpenAI key API key. So just like before, this is going to import our OpenAI key from our env file. So we are going to use OpenAI as OpenAI is the one which gives the API key. So then we can go ahead and put in a title and we're going to say ask the news because we're going to get an answer directly from the LLM about the news article that we provide. So then I'm going to say st.write, ask ask questions about any news article. So then I'm going to say URL equals st.text input, enter a URL. So this is basically going to make a small box where we can enter the URL for the fetch article text to work. So then I'm going to say if st button fetch article, then basically, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a step-by-step process. So this is basically first what we're going to do. We are going to import the URL using by clicking this button, it's going to do fetch article text and it's going to get the data. And if the data that we need has been imported, it's going to say successfully loaded article. Then it's going to open the next box, which is going to be where we ask the question. But if the data doesn't load, then it's going to say that could not load article. So I'm going to say if not URL, then we want to give st.error or st.warning, please enter a URL. So this will basically display a warning and then the user, whoever is using it, can correct themselves. So then I'm going to say try article equals fetch article text, and we're going to say URL. As if you notice here in our article analyzer, we've given it as URL. So then next I'm going to say if length of article is lesser than 500, then I'm going to say st.warning could not load enough in content, could not load enough content. Now, basically, this is going to make sure that we don't get too less data, as some news articles may be really short. But sometimes you may get an error because some websites also put their data in div tags and also sometimes in article tags. So we can put this for at the start, but later I'm going to change this we can change this depending on the article we're going to put. Now, that time we're going to have to make a small change over here as well, but we'll get to that later. So after this, I'm going to say else st dot session state article equals st dot session state dot article text equals article. So basically, what this is going to do is the session state is basically once when we run the file and it opens in our browser, that one time that it's opened is called as a session state. So now by doing this, it's going to directly set the article text as article, and this won't be changed or this won't be removed until we stop the run. So after this, we can move on to the next part. But before that, let's go ahead and save this. And as I said before, you have a particular quota for your OpenAI API key. Now, to fix any errors related to OpenAI API key, you can either go to OpenAI and purchase some quota, and there you can get extra requests, or you can just use it default, and maybe you can create new accounts and use OpenAI keys from that. So let's continue this project in our next video.